This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome back to our debut episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2023. I'm Scott McPike. It is an absolute pleasure to be back on this show. I am delighted as always to be joined by, it's been a long time since we've done a show together, but it's a pleasure to welcome back from the Scottish Daily Mail, the one and only Calum McClurkin. Calum, it's been a while. It's a pleasure to have you back on. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be here, yeah. Back on the show and back on the long road to Cheltenham, which is always good to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I'm looking forward to this. Well, I'm probably looking forward to this show more. I've looked forward to anything show-wise in the past couple of months, so it's a pleasure to be back doing this. Obviously, as well, people know we had to cut the show early last year, obviously due to kind of personal reasons. But thanks very much to everyone who sent kind of message support and I've been happy for the show to come back. It really shows that the show's certainly getting viewers and it's certainly getting people's eyes on it. So that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always a positive, isn't it? When some people listen to you for good or for bad or whatever, losing or not losing, win, lose or draw. So yeah, it's just good to be back. I think it's been a tough time for quite a few people, given the economic climate and what's going on. It's just some national hunt race, and if anything, at least it's a pleasant distraction.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be good to get into this every week from now up until the Cheltenham Festival. We are going to do, before we get into talking about obviously what's the 2023 Cheltenham Festival, I think it's only right we talk about the 2022 Cheltenham Festival, where Ante Post folders were not brilliant, let's be honest. I had one, which was a decent treble that came in with Bob, Honeysuckle and Ellie May, and it was the most dramatic treble I think I've ever seen because it shouldn't have come up. Bob shouldn't have won.
But even Ellie May kind of...
Ellie May was,
Yeah, in mind probably.
Your lucky 15 was very unlucky, to be fair.
Yeah, it was. Galloping going the wrong race, Full Porter winning 10, 11 to 1 kind of thing like that. And Minalindo being second again. A few of them ran the race. Tell Me Something Girl looked to be winning that male hurdle tonight.
I think she would have won.
Long brought down. So yeah, it's a typical kind of 40 roller coaster you get. Jerry Calum was a very attractive 50-1 Ante Post Bartlett pick that was down to like 8s and then just picked up a knock and missed it. Things like that. But from personal daily point of view, I mean, I had a really good Friday, which got me.
Yeah, everything kind of clicked on the Friday.
So, it all ended fairly well in the end.
We are going to look at the 3 best performances from last year's festival. We're both going to say we're third, second, and then first of the impressive performances last year at the Cheltenham Festival. I think we'll be quite similar here. I think we were both taken by a lot of performances, but I'm going to go to you for your third. What was the third best Cheltenham performance last year?
Constitution Hill in the Supreme.
Okay.
Arguably, race fell apart with Dysart Dynamo. Things like that. The pace was kind of strong. It really suited them, but the visual impression of it, you get these kind of awesome Supreme winners in the first race. It's always kind of imprinted in your memory. He's very impressive. He's obviously very short for the champion hurdle. You can see why. Temptation to stay in hurdles. He's just such a big, imposing, relaxed horse, and he seemed to be a good field.
Yeah, Constitution Hill might pop up in mind later on, but I was torn between a couple for my third, but I'm going to put Facile Vega in there in the bumper. I thought we knew the pedigree of Facile Vega was very, very impressive. We knew he was going to be a top horse in the future, but I think the way he did that as well in the bumper, because if the bumper was in the Wednesday was an absolute washout. It was any horse that won that day, I would say, would deserve to make a list because it was bottomless ground. But it was the way he took it up, because he just before the last kind of 2 furlongs, American Mike looked as if he was kind of trying to pull away, and Facile Vega just turned it on, and you just saw him gallop into the line. Obviously Facile Vega is another one we might talk about. That's potentially his price could be opposable in the Supreme, but his performance in the bumper was impressive.
And all the right horses came to the fore in that bumper.
Yes, exactly.
James's Gate was third. We've had winners already in behind. Authorised Speed
Yeah.
did quite well. So, yeah, it does look a strong race, even though the ground was very tasting and demanding.
Mm-hmm. What you got for number 2?
Number 2 is Allaho in the Ryanair. I thought he was really, really good. Again, just convincing. Won by 14 lengths. Just the way he just pings fence, it burns them off from the front, and it was just one of 4 top class performances from the last season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Allaho all season was incredible, but that the way it wasn't a vintage Ryanair, and the way he controlled it, he never looked in any doubt. He just looked at it turned into a kind of very convincing victory. I'm staying with Cheveley Park for my number 2. I've got Appletard in the Gold Cup because I think the way he took it out from the second last, and just because we had doubts about his stamina. I think we've always had doubts that will he stay the Gold Cup trip. You look at the way Rachel just took him on that second last, and he just seemed to power on, and I just loved that performance. And it was that thing as well, and it helped. I fancied him on the day. He was getting back into a really good. He was. I think everybody clicked on that he was maybe the potential improver on the race, and I think it was a perfect story and just a perfect performance for me.
Yeah, he's my number 1.
Okay.
I thought it's a bona fide 180 performance, 20 odd lengths, decent feeling behind. It just made him look slow. Manila was travelling really well as well.
He was, yeah.
He may have kicked on here, but no, picked it up, reeled it in, hammered up the hill, in the same kind of dominant devastation fashion like he did in the Betfair Chase. He just stamps class when he's on it. He's really, really on it, and yeah, he's going to be tough to beat again next year.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. I'm going to go for Constitution Hill as number 1. I thought it was breathtaking, and it was one of those where it was obvious. It was kind of obvious now, with the benefit of 2020 hindsight, that this horse could do something like that, because we were. I think me and you in particular, you kind of liked him a bit more than I did. I was kind of looking towards the kind of dice. I thought Sir Gerhard was going here, I'll be honest, but just the way, as you say, and I think a full load of credit needs to go to Nico, because he knew it in the first 2 races, the Tolworth and the race before that. He knows when to go in this horse. He doesn't need to push for anything. He knows, just sit tight. You made a good point there about Dysart Dynamo and John Bond just completely taking each other on up front. And Constitution Hill just sat patiently, and see, once he was just asked to go, wow, what a display.
He picks up like Altior, that kind of rangy, kind of big, massive stride. Very relaxed in the way he operates, and with these novices, I think John Bond may be a bit too highly strung. Dysart Dynamo certainly was. So that's why I've only got it at number 3, because I think maybe it kind of collapsed a little bit, and it's a novice race. But the way he approached it, he could be an absolute bona fide superstar that could be here for hopefully a long, long time at the top. And
you're into ratings, and they gave him a rating of 170 on that. Is that fair?
Yeah, around about. So I think it did look like a 170 performance. You could drill down the fire bones and maybe try and pick holes at him, but you're only trying to pick holes at him because he's like really short favourite for the champion hurdle. You might think he's kind of built for fences, and does he kind of want the ground on the soft side? So in that regard, yeah, but every novice has got to go up and prove it in open company as well, and that's his next challenge. Yeah,
I think it's a good opportunity as well to move into what we're going to talk about. We're going to, instead of doing the kind of recap every week, we're going to start that next week. We'll look at obviously horses that have caught our eye in the past week or so. Because it's the first episode of the new series, we're going to take a look at the kind of big races at the festival, and kind of look as anything kind of catching our eye in the market so far. I think before we get into that, though, I want to touch a bit on you. I've noticed this year, and I know you have too, that there is very little value in Ante Post markets.
Yeah, almost none. But I mean, the bookmakers are kind of just maybe being overprotective and cotton on and things, and there's so little form to kind of know. So you got to sensitively price up the Mullins horses and the Henderson horses, and so they're seeing the same trends as punters do, and they're being very overprotectionist about it, particularly the owners, and it's kind of a tight band of think Mullins kind of ruled the roost, so you're just going to naturally focus on him and price things conservatively. So it's very hard. You've got to just try and think outside the box as much as possible, or alternatively just accept that you still like that horse, but just be willing to take a shorter price.
Yeah, and it gets us into, we'll start with the champion hurdle. Constitution Hill was sitting at 5-4. Two-time champion Honeysuckle's 4-1. You've got the three Willie Mullins horses, Vauban, Stateman, and Sir Gerhard, kind of round about between 8 and 14s, Pied Piper 16s. And there's kind of 6 horses at the top. You've got Echoes and Main at 25s, but I think it's all between the top 6. Calum, I think as well, you've got a two-time champion hurdle winner who's won both very well. 16 out of 16 over obstacles. Did you think? I know Constitution Hill was a freak in the Supreme, but Honeysuckle sitting 4-1. Does that tell you the weirdness of this market already?
Yeah, it probably should be a little bit closer. I think maybe Honeysuckle should be something like 3-1, Constitution Hill 15-8, something like that. It just says how much highly regarded Constitution Hill is. Nuke in the block, it maybe highlights that the champion hurdle form in recent seasons is lacking, that Honeysuckle hasn't maybe beaten much, but on the flip side, she wins every battle that she's been in.
Yeah.
She's versatile, she's in open company, she'll get £7, which will be a help. And so I mean, there's questions and answers on both sides a little bit. I also think in behind's priced pretty spot on, to be honest. You can't really see an outsider getting involved, and I think Willie Mullins is using Sunday's Morgiana as a kind of, do I have anything that'll get close?
I think that's a weird one, because I don't think all three of these are going to line up against each other in the Morgiana. So, for example, Sir Gerhard, I thought would go over fences. I still think he possibly could. I think it. But you've got the likes of Vauban, who's obviously that 4-turn and 5 thing that we talk about. Stateman looked ahead of the handicapper. Sir Gerhard's won a Ballymore. So there's 3 interesting contenders, but they're not all going to take on each other on Sunday.
Well, Willie Mullins says that 6 of them are intended runners at the moment. I would say it's unlikely as well, but again, I just think it's him trying to establish a pecking order.
Yeah.
You've got Sir Gerhard coming back in trip. He should deal with it, but to me, Smack's more of a chaser than a hurdler.
And his record at Punchestown isn't good at all. I think he's 0 for 2 at Punchestown.
Yeah, the only venues of his 2 defeats. Punchestown. Stateman's going up in grade. Did prove it at Punchestown, but that kind of had an end of season Grade 1 novice feel to it. Is he going to progress, or is he going to be a bit like Saint Ryan, maybe find his level in open company, like maybe be 3rd or 4th, something like that? Vauban, I think, is the one that might have the potential starburst. I thought that Triumph looked pretty strong. The right 2 Elliott pair were in behind. He showed a good turn of foot. He looks speedier than your average kind of Triumph horse. He normally go quite up and trip. You wouldn't want to do that with him immediately. So I think he's probably the one outside the top 2 that you'd be looking at for 3rd. And if Sharjah comes back, he'll be targeted that race at Christmas. I think he's like 33-40-1. The old place merchant, and if it does cut up and the top 2 scare each other, then he might be the one for 3rd if Epatante does run in the Mayor's Hurdle, for instance. So you could make a case for building up him, the Leopardstown at Christmas, and if he's on track for that, he seemed declared for it, you'd expect him to win that, because that's his bread and butter. And he'll probably run in the champion hurdle again and get placed. So you might poach at each way price in him. But I mean, apart from that, it does look like between the top 2, and it's whatever side of the coin that you want to be on the day.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be that thing as well with Constitution Hill. If he runs on Saturday and then obviously goes to Christmas and maybe even a Contenders or something, is he going to shorten too much in price? Consider, even if Honeysuckle was to do what she does every year and 1 or 2 starts before Cheltenham, you're not going to see too much of a break in the market, are you?
No, yeah, I don't think anyone in their right mind would put Honeysuckle larger than 5-1, 11-2, doing what he's doing. I mean, there's too much respect for her unbeaten record. if Constitution Hill is winning everything by 20, 30 lengths again,
Yeah.
he'll be beating some decent horses, proving himself in better ground as well. Can take a lead, be versatile. Then yeah, you can see him going odds on, but I don't think it'd be like an absolute penalty kick either way for either horse when it comes to the day, whatever really happens. So yeah, if you back one now, say you're in I'm going to back Constitution Hill, you're always going to be mindful of Honeysuckle come March. If you're going to back Honeysuckle right now, you're always going to be mindful of Constitution Hill.
So if I was to give you a 5 or 3 bet now, just for this race, one only, who would it be?
I'd put it on Honeysuckle.
So would I would go Honeysuckle, just at the value more than anything. I fully respect Constitution Hill, but I don't think there's many times you'll have seen a 2-time champion hurdle winner sitting about 4-1 in November. So I think that could be a serious play. 3 mile division now. We got an interesting look at this on Sunday with the Lismullen hurdle. We just look at obviously Flooring Porter's another one sitting at 2-time champion. You a horse you really, really like. Obviously sitting about 5-1 just now. Didn't win on Sunday, but Blazing Cow's about 6-1. We're not really sure if we know he's probably going to stay over hurdles, but is he going to be kind of 100% tip top? You've got a likes of Classical Dream. Bob Ollinger obviously came back and was pipped by the horse that I forget the name of it now.
Home by the Lane.
Home by the Lane. What do we think of this 3 mile division? I know you're a big fan of Flooring Porter. What were you really put off in Sunday's display, or was it similar to last year where you just thought, he'll come alive at Cheltenham?
I mean, slightly underwhelming. I mean, he did get a soft enough time up front for the first part of the race. He challenged and he outpaced and boxed on with Astiel Ball for a head bob beaten third. He finished fourth and Astiel Ball was third. I just think you'd like a horse that he's just going to peak in March. March trip's too short an avenue. They're going through there. They'll go to Leopardstown Christmas, and then they'll go to the festival in March. And it's a try and tested formula, and that's why he's still favourite, and rightfully so. I think he's constantly underestimated. I think people are looking for ways to see him getting beaten. If the same horses turn up, they'll probably beat him again at Cheltenham. Might not happen at other tracks. The thing is he going to get a soft lead again at Cheltenham? Is there something there? Is William Mullins going to run 2? Is Gordon Elliott going to run 2? Is someone going to will just pester him and soften him up and try and get him beat? So the fact that he is still kind of under the radar, not under the radar because he's a favourite, but slightly disrespected a little bit in the kind of his general makeup, and kind of he's a bit kind of one-dimensional. He's not a world beater. They still kind of allow him to have his own way because they know it'll harm their chance as well. I think he'll win again. I mean, I know it's quite hard to keep winning at festivals, but the Steers Hurdle's a good place to do it. Big Box did it. I mean, there's plenty that kind of came out of Steers Hurdle that could win that race over and over again, run well consistently in it over and over again. Paisley Park is admirable in that regard, you know. So yeah, he's still the one to beat for me by some way.
That Lismullen hurdle obviously was interesting with Zanny here, who I just don't think ran any race at all. I don't think he's maybe going to stay the track. But Bob Ollinger, last year obviously was a bit of a weird one. He'd won his 2 chase starts before the turners. It looked okay enough. It wasn't brilliant. It wasn't like mesmerising, but obviously picked up the pieces with Gallop and Fallen in the turners, and then just completely bottomed out in the 3 mile. I'm not sure whether it was fences that was the issue last year with Bob Ollinger. I think he just was running maybe too hard races. He obviously Galloping, I think, toyed with him at times, and I didn't understand what they were thinking putting him over 3 miles after that, because he just didn't look to me. I remember texting you at the time. He was so opposable. I think he was like 65 in that 3 mile chase, and I just couldn't have him at all. Obviously pulled up in it as well. And I think we saw the same thing maybe in Sunday, where he came into the race pretty well, but when you asked him to really go on and kick for home, something just got him in the line. And is it going to be a thing with Bob Ollinger where he's going to come into race, he's going to look brilliant at certain points in the races, but when you really ask him to dig deep, he's going to maybe struggle?
I think there's some issue that's pretty hard to detect with him physically. Just empties. He completely emptied for me, and his head was up quite high, and there's something bothering him. The class is still there because the way he travelled, jumped well, and he was backed off the boards on the weekend. He was backed as if defeat was out of the question. Henry de Bromhead was pretty despondent afterwards as well. I think there was an indication that he'd done something pretty good at home coming into this, and I think they thought he was back. And then when the serious question went off the bridle, turned out he wasn't. I think he's going to be very, very hard to trust in the future at any trip. The way he runs now, there's no chance he's going to get home in a stairs hurdle.
I know that's the thing with me as well, because that Lismullen hurdle was set up perfectly. Like, home by the lead came from miles away. Home by the lead and did not look the one I would love to have seen the exchanges 2 out. And you just thought he was going to just go home. I still don't think he would have been favourite for the stairs, actually, even if he'd won impressively, because I still think the 3 mile thing's a weird direction to go down. I know we were talking about this horse for a Gold Cup trip, but when you look completely out of any condition and turners, if Calum had won that, he would have just walked away from Bob Bollinger. It would have been about 20, 30 lengths. So to then go to 3 miles and then go down the route over hurdles, and hurdles can bring the best out. I get that, but I just have a weird thing that the trip isn't the problem.
Yeah, I don't think the trip's the problem. I don't think the type of obstacles the problem either. Hurdles and fences. I think his jumping fences is adequate, really.
It was fine. It wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't like where you would say, oh, he should never jump a fence again. It was perfectly fine.
I just think there's not a lot of steel when asked the question. The way he throws his head up in the air, I think he's kind of chucked it, but maybe something's kind of bothering him when he's properly.
But on the other hand, I look into that as well. You look at when he beat Capodanno before Cheltenham, he showed a lot of grit that day.
Yeah, but something's happened.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, but would you abandon hope? I mean, Envoy Allen's kind of came back to some semblance of winning, so maybe there's something there, but I just don't think we'll see that old kind of bona fide superstar potential again.
Yeah, one horse I want to touch on with you, who I know you're a fan of, is Blazing Cal. Now, you were talking last year about this horse, and I did agree. I don't think he's the best jumper in the world, but I think it's interesting they're keeping him over hurdles, and he does have a serious engine. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But it's 6-1 for a stairs hurdle in November, and we're hearing reports that he's maybe not in tip-top order. To me, I can't have him.
It's had another setback. Won't be seen till after Christmas. I think it's just a complete act of desperation to try and actually find something that's unexposed, progressive, and that can beat Florin Porter. He could be good in time. I think he probably is. And he's good in time. He needs to brush up on his jumping. Personally, I couldn't have him. It's a quick point in Zana here. He had a big tumble at Aintree last season, and that seems to have affected his confidence big time because he's absolutely skying his hurdles.
Yeah.
Early doors in that race. So there's a lot of work for him to come back.
Is there anything else in that division that catches your eye? Because I really liked Proshima's performance the other day in the Bet365 hurdle. I know it wasn't a brilliant race, but it was a really convincing performance. I would probably look at maybe him as an each-way player compared to anything else, depending they go down that route.
I just don't think he'll stay around Cheltenham. Again, I think Florin Porter will just get the fractions right again, and he has pace to beat the speed horses around there. So last season with Classical Dream.
Mm-hmm.
He has the stamina to keep the stairs at bay.
Mm-hmm.
Like to Paisley Parker. I think he's got Paisley Park. So he's got that blend again. I think he's a lot more solid than he's given credit for, but just because he gets quirks and he runs badly elsewhere, and the people I think are trying to find a way to get him beat, and at the moment, I can't.
So you're in the Florin Porter camp. We will move into the chasers. Let's start with the Queen Mother Champion Chase division. Energamine obviously going for 2 in a row at 9-4. Shishkin is the comeback going to happen 3-1. You've got the likes of Fernie Hollow, Edward Stone sitting at the two, obviously probably stand out 2 mile novices last year, about 8 and 10-1. Greenoteen 14s. It all depends on, obviously, the last show we did was before the Clarence House, which was epic between Energamine and Shishkin. We thought we would see maybe Shishkin going again, but obviously something happened and Energamine won very well that day. This division's interesting because Shishkin's obviously the fly in the ointment. We'll maybe get into one later on with a fly in the ointment where if he's fit, he's not going to be 3-1.
Yeah, it's a big if, given the way he bottomed out last season's champion chase. I mean, he was by a fence. You knew pretty much after one fence.
He knew straight away he was done, yeah.
Right. And they did the sensible thing, pulled up. It's kind of a weird kind of bone thing, apparently. Can be treatable. So, will they make the Tingle Creek in time? I don't think they will. I think they'll go for Desert Orchid at Kempton.
I think they'll go for something soft. Yeah. Similar last year, because he came out last year at Christmas and looked really impressive. And that's the thing. There was the issues last year with him with the kind of ground and things like that. Well, a lot of people are laying into Nicky Henderson. It's not unlike that. I don't think the Tingle Creek will be the be all and end all. I don't think they'll be massively looking to get a run into him before Christmas.
I don't think there'll be a massive rush. I mean, they'll just take their time and whatever's the right opportunity they'll take. Bit like Altior, I think he'd probably come back in the Desert Orchid and he'll probably take on a Nubi Negra type horse there, and then try and definitely peak him for the champion chase. But you know, after what happened, you can't touch him at 3-1.
No, you can't.
I mean, got within a length of him, I ask it. You know, he did quite well. It was okay. It's hard to see the form turn around at the time, but obviously Energamine's improved for that, while Shishkin kind of was a bit broken from it. And Energamine's then gone on to prove subsequently at Punchestown that can do it in better ground with different tactics. So
yeah.
I think he's very, very hard to pick a hole in. And the skimpy prices and shocking value at 94 right now for him doesn't seem too bad.
What about the kind of the novices stepping up? You've got likes of Fernie Hollow, who I think if you're thinking Shishkin's difficulty, you're taking it. I think Fernie Hollow's very brittle character at 8-1. Edward Stone's obviously the Arkle winner, was obviously beaten by Gentleman to Me, who I was very disappointed in the other day. Is there anything up and coming that could potentially put a throw it to Energamine?
In the 2 mile division, no. I think the Arkle last year was shocking. Edelson won it. He won it quite well, but I actually think he probably will go up in trip rather than the down. So, and I think he might find it difficult to back that up quickly. And Warlord gets smashed by Greenoteen in the Halden Gold Cup when he came up. Like, third time lucky, gets smashed in that same race. Didn't travel the legs. So I mean, the novices coming from the 2 mile division at the moment aren't cutting it. I think Blue Lord's finishing effort was fairly tame. And Gabanaku, who's a stayer, was second ultimately. So I don't think there's much opposition for the Open Company. I know Nubi Negra won a sure chase at 1-10, but it was pulled out because of the heavier going conditions. Goes well fresh. You know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to just go to Kempton and then they'll come here. He handled a track. He was second 2 years ago. He was a bit unlucky. 33-1 each way for him isn't atrocious. Same with Greenoteen, if he comes out to Tingle Creek, he might each way consideration, but I don't really see anything else.
No, it's Fernie Hollow I really like, but I'm not backing.
Appreciate it. You know, these are two that you're kind of trying to think where they are, but you can't possibly know until you see them. You know, Fernie Hollow's get more kind of preliminary entries than Appreciate It does at this stage, probably because he's not as ground dependent. But we've seen Appreciate It come out last season when he ran quite well in the Champion Order.
I thought he ran really well in the Champion Order actually.
Before kind of understandably blowing up and couldn't go with him. So yeah, I mean you can make a case for one of them or either of them. But again, 8-10-1, you're taking a risk against Energamine, who's comfortably mid 170 horse that's a defending champion that's broke that curse for Willie Mullins of winning the champion chase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's not going to go anywhere anytime soon.
No, he is not. And we'll move into the Ryanair division. Allaho obviously sitting about 64. We know he was aimed for the King George, but obviously he's had a setback and we might not see him before the festival. You look at this market, and I'm just going to Galloping Deschamps, Shishkin, Fairney Hollow, Brave Man's Game, Fakir Duderie. It shows you there's not a lot of depth to that division. And the thing with Allaho is that he might not get a run before Cheltenham, but you would still, and it's not an unlike Willie Mullins to do that, to send a horse straight to Cheltenham without a run. He did it with Corvega and Benny de Dieu back in the day. But are you taking 64 knowing that he's had setbacks and he's not on target for where they need him to be?
I don't think you can, really. Again, it's just a market where you just leave alone at this stage.
I think you do, yeah.
The fact that there's no alarming drift suggests that he will definitely be on track for March at the moment. So, but I just think it's just a bit twisted between division. You know, there's steers in there that are trying to prove that they're Gold Cup horses.
Mm-hmm.
Galloping Deschamps, Long Press, and there's potential 2 milers in there. Edwardstone, horses like that, fairly all. So the champion chase or Gold Cup are more lucrative. So unless the trip is inadequate, your top grade 1 horses don't come here unless.
Do you look at a horse like Fakir Duderie at maybe 12-1, who obviously last year avoided Allaho in the Ryanair and won these grade 1s before and after Cheltenham? Do you look at maybe if Allaho doesn't run, does 12-1 for him look massive now that he doesn't have that really superior rival in place?
EP McManus always likes Aintree, doesn't he?
Yeah.
They do target that race with him. Like they say with Gentle Than Me, I mean, Aintree is partly the target there, not the Arkle. Whether they adapt it, but that would need to be, Allaho would need to be ruled out, you know, with a fair degree of notice there for Fakir Duderie to probably go there. You can see it happen, but that bet is purely based on Allaho not turning up, which is certainly not a given, because if he does turn up, Fakir Duderie will not go.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
At a similar price, which will probably go even if he's there. Maybe Brave Man's Game probably will take his chance, for instance, in that race. There'll be others in there that will probably take their chance. I mean, Edwardstone would probably take his chance if he shoots. He's a 2.5 miler. So there's a bit of kind of, there's just nothing kind of set in stone bet against Allaho at the point. Even if you're lukewarm, and I was lukewarm for him about the King George. I wasn't convinced he was going to go there either. Just didn't think he would be right. I didn't think he wanted to kind of change the kind of what he's been doing before. I didn't see much appetite from the trainer in that regard, really, to go there. And they've got Envoy Allen now as a 7 backup, which was quite coincidentally announced at a similar time.
Yeah, and I think the thing as well, you look at a Brave Man's Game, for example, who I don't think we're thinking he's going to be anywhere near. I don't think they'll go the Gold Cup route. But if that was to cut up now, did you like his performance at the Charlie Hall? Did you think it? I thought he jumped really well. I thought it was easily I think if the plan was Gold Cup, if Paul Nicholls came out and said we're aiming this horse at the Gold Cup, he would be a lot shorter than he is. But you know it's all about the King George for him.
Yeah, he's camping like King George horse. He's won the Cato Star. I just don't think there's a lot off the bridle with him. The Charlie Hall was great. I mean, he jumps fantastically. Jumps as well as anybody else. He jumped as well as Allaho, arguably. How quick he is, but he didn't extend after. I mean, he looked like he would win by 15, 20 lengths in the snap. He didn't. He won by 4 from Sam Brown, who's Painted Dream. They're quite exposed for that level, and he wasn't extending away as he would kind of like. You saw that when he beaten his novice hurdle at Cheltenham. Really, I didn't think there was a lot there for pressure, and that could be the same with King George as well. I'm aesthetically brilliant to watch, lovely to look at, perfect. Superficially, it's all there, but when the business end, I think there's a big doubt about him, and there's enough of a doubt to take him on the King George as well.
Aye, I mean, I couldn't have my 11 to 10 for King George. I would look outside the market, but it'll obviously lead us into the Gold Cup, where you've got maybe a similar situation, not in terms of the market completely going for a horse like the way it's going for Constitution Hill, but you've got Applitard sitting at 7-2, which I think is fair. Galloping Deschamps, however, was 11-4. Now, Galloping Deschamps an interesting one, because obviously we saw last year he is a natural over fences. He had that blip in the turners, but he came out the next day and Punchestown and looked, it didn't bother him at all when he was stepping up and trip. The Gold Cup trip, in terms of Galloping Deschamps, we know he's a strong traveller. The one thing I want to kind of say, and I don't know if you'll agree or disagree, you look at that turners and you look at maybe the first 4 or 5 and a lot of the races he's run over fences, he gets too high in the air at a lot of his starting fences. He settles into it. He's very keen. But he is a strong traveller, and I'm just the fear. I couldn't 11-4 the now. To me, for that reason, I would maybe stay away just at the time being. Is he a too strong a traveller, and is he too keen to be a Gold Cup player?
I think the engine's there to bail him out in that regard, and pedigree's definitely there. Sky's a couple because maybe they're going maybe a hair too quick at the start for him, but once he gets into a rhythm, it's very, very good to watch. I don't have much concern about him getting the trip. I think he's learned to sell, he's learned to relax. I particularly saw that Punchestown. I thought he looked a lot more measured. Again, it's just a question of what race do you pitch him in an open company for him to kind of adapt to that. I think the Savage is probably an obvious go-to point, really. Doesn't really need a beginner's kind of warm-up into the thing. So, yeah, I think he'll be fine. But it is a valid question. The last year's Gold Cup was slowly run as well, and that suited Applitard. So that would suit Galloping Deschamps as well if he does indeed settle a little bit. I think they're two very hard horses to split, and the market seems to be.
I think the market.
You'd lean towards Applitard slightly because he's got open company. And he's only turning 9. He's definitely not too old to defend his crown.
You look at the kind of other horses in the race. Long Press will probably get a better idea on Saturday what he's going to be like in open company. Statler, obviously, a really impressive winner in National Hunt Chase. Ahoy Senor, Capodanno, you got likes of kind of Envoy Allen, who obviously won the. I don't think Envoy Allen's Gold Cup material. I really don't. I think everything worked in his favour in the last day. Galvin didn't run any race at all. I don't think he's going to be a Gold Cup contender.
Envoy Allen, no, probably he still has to kind of go out and prove his consistency. He's a bit of an awkward customer as well. He was given a brilliant ride to win that. He's shuffling a few and it's slow him at the back, and you're always kind of trying to chib him along a little bit. Galvin didn't have his grounds, did a race fitness on his side. He made a big bad mistake at Down Royal in the Champion Chase when the race was kind of developing. I thought the one to take out of it was Conflated. He was so weak in the market. He obviously needed the run. He absolutely breezed into it, didn't make any mistakes. The trip Mariah was a little bit too short. They're going to try and campaign him as a Gold Cup horse. I think it'd be teed up nicely to go to Leopardstown next. He should come on for that run quite significantly. 40-1's a little bit, arguably a little bit big for him. Maybe you've got two superstars really at the top of the market though, so you can see why everything's quite a bit longer. I think Statler's going to develop into a better horse than Galvin as well, so I wouldn't entirely rule him out. You've got Protectorate, who could maybe improve a little bit further as well. So it's a decent looking division. Yeah,
I'm not totally against Capodanno either at a big price, just to potentially, because he certainly potentially looks as if he's going to be better over a trip, and I don't know whether I don't think he's anywhere near the quality of a Galloping Deschamps. But just when you look at Gold Cups and the slowly run races at times, and a lot of slow horses can hit the frame, Santini being a perfect example. Capadano could fit that bill.
Completely depends how it's run. I think Capadano was kind of, they were kind of thinking that he might be a Grade 1 horse, and they were kind of riding him with
Yeah.
and then in Punchestown, he was more positive and responded quite well and won. So he's quite good. If I was Willie Mullins, I'd take him and Tornado Flyer to the King George. I think there's a really good chance of it attacking in the King George. It's not slow. I think he would be of interest there if he went there along with Tornado Flyer.
You look at the King George market as well, like a Brave Man's Game sitting at 11 to 10, but there's not much in behind it. You've got obviously Tornado Flyer, Lahon Press, I don't know if he'll go there. But Hitman, you've then got Hitman at 10s, Royal Pagaille at 16s. There's not really much you can take on Brave Man's Game with, but the same thing, Brave Man's Game at 11 to 10 is just too short for me. And I don't fancy Envoy Allen.
And Envoy Allen, kind of untrustworthy. Tornado Flyer hasn't done much since winning, really, at Kempton. If he shows a little bit of spark this weekend, he'd be in the conversation.
I'm just thinking, maybe do you give Galloping Deschamps maybe that, because it's a 3 miles. We thought last year he would beat Brave Man's Game over 3 miles. So could he be tempted to maybe go there?
I think he'd be the one for Christmas for the big race. Yeah.
Let's get into the novice hub.
I would chance it with Capadano, personally.
It could be Capadano. I wouldn't be totally against it. I don't see a price for Capadano actually, but if he goes there, I wouldn't be against him at all. Novice hurdles. Let's look at a few here. We'll obviously start with I think the horse that's going to dictate everything where everybody goes is Facile Vega. Really impressive winner of the bumper. He's 2s for the Supreme. He's about 5s for the Ballymore. Now, a lot of bumper winners tend to go the Ballymore route, but the vibes from the Mullins camp seem to be that they're aiming towards the Supreme. What do you think of Facile Vega? Do you think Supreme is going to be where they go, or Ballymore is? Because the Ballymore record with bumper winners, it tells me something.
It's a very attritional bumper as well, isn't it? I mean, he's definitely got stamina, so the trip is not going to be a problem if they go that way. It's just that Redemption Day's out, so you think he's probably the speed horse in the 2 miler. 2 miler might be a bit weak at the moment, but it's really, really early days in that regard. You don't have a lot of the kind of Constitution Hill, I think, was even out at this time, so you don't really know at the moment. But he's undoubtedly the number one novice hurdler that people are looking out for and wanting to see. Would I back him for anything at the moment? No, simply because it's too early and he's too short. Yeah,
a couple of horses in the kind of mid-range trip that have caught the eye. American Mike obviously came out in a 2 mile 6, won it pretty well. It wasn't amazing. Like, I wouldn't go out my way to say it was. I liked him for the Ballymore since we saw him over kind of bumpers and things like that. But he's kind of relatively unchanged in the market. But what did you think of him? Were you impressed with his debut over hurdles?
Yeah, I think in the close season, I think there was like 9s, and if you are on that kind of price, I think you'd be fairly pleased with its developing. He was always going to improve for hurdling, wasn't he? The engines there, he travelled in a similar kind of ominous fashion. He put the race away to bed not too badly. Let's be clear about it. Isn't a bad horse. He was coming from a longer break, so it's probably a maiden that's got some depth to it. You can see him going for like maybe a Lawlers of Nace being a big kind of mid-season target for him, really, and teeing him up for the Ballymore. I think you'd probably nail him down as a. You'd be 95% certain that he'd be in the Ballymore, wouldn't he? He'd have enough toe for that, you'd think.
Next one, Hermes Allen, obviously won at Cheltenham last Friday. It was a good race. I think there's a few horses you can take out of it. I think Hubrisco never got home. I just think the kind of bottoms fell off him a wee bit. But Hermes Allen's 2 from 2. He did it impressive enough. Is 10 to 1 a decent price for him? Are you taken by him so far?
Not really. I think Hubrisco's kind of a summer horse, isn't he? He needs good ground, and it's just a bit too traditional. Music Drive needs 3 miles at least, and he was second to. I thought the third we've all been caught was quite an eye catcher. A soft ground, he had no idea what his job was till probably jumping the last and then staying on quite well. He did it well enough. You can see him turn up in a shallow, be be Nicholls' Shallow horse, and then a monster of Willie Mullins will turn up, or Henry de Bromheads or Gordon Elliott for the Ballymore, and he won't go, and he'll go to entry.
Anything catching your eye in the novice division? Like Champ Keeley maybe caught my eye. I wouldn't probably back him, but he looks as if he could potentially be a fast Bartlett horse.
Champ Keeley, I think, would be kind of your early kind of season marker, wouldn't he, for the early season form? He's probably the one that's come out early on and made the most noise, really, and made the biggest impression. And the form in behind of all his races is stacking up. So that's your early season markers. I've got a couple in the 5 to 4 later that are novice hurdlers that I think are a little bit sleepers in that regard.
Novice chasers, let's get into. We were recording this before John Bond's going to run at Warwick, so we could either look great or look terrible here. But John Bond leads the kind of Arkle market 10-3. El Fabiolo, Sir Gerhard appreciates it. Banbridge is one I want to get your thoughts on in a couple of minutes. But we're recording this. Obviously, we don't know what this could go out, and John Bond could look top class and be even shorter. But 10-3 for the Arkle. We know Nicky Henderson's got a terrific record in this race. He targets it. I thought maybe after the race with El Fabiolo entry that he might have been maybe one to go up and trip, but I think he will go Arkle.
Yeah, it seems Arkle. He's going to improve for a fence in terms of his technique. The one quibble you'd have is temperament. He boils over.
That's the thing. He's sweated. Yeah, he's a prone sweater.
He can be a bit of a free goer, and it's slightly bit of a concern that we'll get the freshness out of it. Shouldn't be a concern today in a 3-hour race. Monreal is enough to prove from last season, and Westcourt's already had a run out at Warwick where he jumped markedly right. It'll be a decent little novice, and it'll be a decent starting point for him. You'd expect him to win. You'd expect him to look the part for sure. At entry, I thought he was okay. He has got all the right kind of attributes to make the grade. He's the obvious starting point. He's the obvious early favourite, but there are holes that you can maybe pick in terms of his temperament for fences. Maybe he might be too over exuberant for his own good early doors.
I'm just kind of looking through kind of like Mullins horses in the market. For example, he's got El Fabiolo, Sir Gerhard appreciated, Dysart Dynamo. We don't really know much about what the plans are. Flame Bearer. Mullins will have a couple of darts to throw at this race. What's the one that stands out to you that you think could be the Arkle, the main Arkle horse?
The one in terms of talent, anywhere we go, if he goes over fences, would be Sir Gerhard.
Right.
Then maybe El Fabiolo, although I never got the impression that he was one of their top novices hurdlers last year. Whether that will translate into fences, it might. He did run John Bond obviously close, but it's just really hard to judge. Flame Bearer could be useful. I think the trainer is still trying to establish pecking orders.
Yeah.
For other people outside looking in to maybe try and gauge it is going to be pretty difficult at this stage.
A couple of Elliott horses I want to touch on that I know you were a fan of. Obviously, 3 Stripe Life is potentially, I thought, looked pretty good. I thought he jumped pretty well. He's 6-1 for the Marsh, about 7-1 for the Brown Advisory. What do you think would be the target with him? Because I think he's always looked an out-and-out steer to me. Possibly.
And I would keep him 2.5 miles at the moment. I don't really see an urge to go up and trip with him. He won as he likes. I don't think he'll earn much. That he's just kind of he's translated his hurdles from fences. That's kind of all we really know at the moment. Sterner Tessel away. He might throw him in a Drinmore. Something like that. That could kind of be a big test of the water. But I think he's pretty good. I think he's definitely one to have significant interest in. It's around the 7 or 8-1 mark, and it's fair enough. It's neither a backers or a layers kind of.
Yeah. Mighty Potter as well. Obviously, 1 over 2 miles. He obviously fell in the Supreme, but he's always looked to me that he's going to be potentially a horse better suited to going up. I don't think he'll be a 2 mile horse. I think he's probably into a 3 Stripe Life and Jerry Calum, maybe go up to maybe Brown Advisory. Mighty Porter could be their turnless horse.
Could be. He does have this kind of weird lugging head carriage where he always looks and wanders away and idles a little bit. He's a solid kind of horse. Is he gonna? Is he? I'm not sure he's Grade 1 material myself. He could well be, but again, he's Gormley does have a strong. He's developing a strong hand of novice chasers. Hollow Games was pretty good as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
good for a fence, big style, and a novice chase. It tends to work out quite well down the season.
Jerry Calum yesterday, I thought was really good. He's maybe going to turn up later on and maybe one of our picks, but he could be one as well. I know last year you spoke about him for the Bartlett. He looks to me similar to obviously Ginto, who obviously was really unfortunate what happened there, but just the profile that Jerry Calum's got, he looks a lot better over a fence.
Yeah, always promised to be. I do like this horse a lot. A big kind of strapping type, striking, professional, just gets on with it. And there's absolutely no nonsense with him. He jumped very efficiently. I think he showed a little bit of pace towards the end to win that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's versatile enough. The ground at Thurles was good to soft, which I think jarred him up a bit. So that's why he didn't see him in the season. So that is a concern. If it comes to spring and it's good ground, that might be too much of a risk. There will need to be the word soft in the going description for him to turn up in spring.
Yeah. Couple of British horses, Time Hill and Stage Star, have both got off the fence. Their chase starts really impressively. Actually, I thought Time Hill was actually really good. Would I back him at 7-1 for a Brown Advisory? I don't know, because I don't think top class hurdlers, particularly at 3 miles, going over fences, they tend to stay over hurdles too long. I think the only horse in the past 10 years that's maybe done it and obviously didn't live up to it was Thistlecrack. Would that be a concern?
Thistlecrack, Faugheen had a good go at it. I think maybe he has taken a season too long, but he's been schooling in the background and always comfortable with it. They've toyed with it. I think there's a lot to work on with his open performance. It's probably encouraging that he was a little bit rusty in that regard. Again, just when it comes to the battle, he finishes second and third or fourth very often for my liking.
Yeah, I just wouldn't trust him.
An up and comer and get beat, but he's definitely as he always is in the stairs hurdle. He's definitely in the conversation. You know,
absolutely, yeah.
He's very hard to knock out of any frame.
Mm-hmm.
But you just wonder if there's something that's got a bit more steel in it that'll be him.
Yeah. Right, let's get into a 5 to follow. I'll let you have the floor for this, because I will just go through mine quickly, but you go first because I am quite eager to hear your 5 to follow.
Try to get a positive mix. Your own story, Lucinda Russell, 6-year-old. Was third in the same Air Maiden of Ahoy Senior was in last year, and it got really well backed. Was kind of narrowly beaten, and then it went to Aintree where 10 of the 19 fences were removed in a 3 mile novice chase where it narrowly beat, but it jumped comfortably the best. That's the same race Corrick Rambler won before going on to bigger and better things and eventually winning an Ultima. So the yard kind of like to aim the best horses at these kind of races. So I think he's definitely one to watch. He's an entry as well at Haydock on Saturday, which I hope he would win because he's been declared. The jockey booking's been done anyway, so I hope we turn up for that over 3 mile 4. So obviously as a serious kind of steer for the future, whether he needs another year to win the bigger handicap races, but he's definitely better than 116. I think he probably pay his way in the short term. So hopefully he might climb the ladder. An Ultima might be a bit too kind of undulating track for him, but maybe a Scottish National, something like that could suit him down to a T. The second one is a novice hurdle, Path to Rue of Gavin Cromwell's 5-year-olds. He won a Galway Maiden last month, beating It's Time to Unite us by 3-4 lengths. Convincing performance because the Gordon Elliott horse was run quite positively and quite confidently by David Russell from the front. He reeled him in really easily. He looks like a kind of forward My Mate Mozzie type that would run really well in a Royal Bond and maybe go maybe not be kind of top supreme class, particularly if Fast Vega holds the ground, and maybe running kind of these kind of festivals like Leopardstown, Dublin Racing Festival, things like that to get a mark for the county hurdle, and maybe in the mid 140s or something like that. I think he's potentially dangerous, so he'd be a second one that's worth following. The third one is one that we've touched on already. We've all been caught for Nigel Twiston-Davis. He was third in that Ballymore trial in November meeting. He was very green. He was pretty clueless what he was doing. He charged on. He needs soft ground. The trainer, and admittedly, the trainer always does this with any decent horse that he's got, is compared with Imperial Commander. This one's no different, but he's been bought in mind with fencing. He's been bought in mind with Cheltenham directly for the owner, so they are planning to try and win something. And if it does come bottomless, 33's 41 at the moment for Albert Bartlett is worth monitoring. Interested to see where he would go. You'd imagine like he'd mop up all the kind of like heavy ground Haydock trials and stuff like that in the soft ground in the winter. So he's definitely one I'm going to be following. Fourth one's a Henry de Bromhead horse, 5-year-old in the pockets. Bought by JP McManus for £290,000. He's a point-to-point winner. He won a maiden at Wexford quite impressively. He quickened away from a horse called Joyu Mashan, who was deemed good enough by Paul Nolan to run the champion bumper. He was rated 121 hurdles, so he can definitely go places. He's around 20-25 to win the Supreme, so Mark, I haven't missed him, but I think if Henry de Bromhead kind of a wee kind of like pacey horse, and he's also getting entry in the Royal Bond, so like, he might be de Bromhead's 2-miler. And I do find it interesting that JP McManus has got a horse with him, because it's a pretty rare kind of combination there. That's an interesting one. Number 5 is a Willie Mullins trained horse, Madman's Game.
Okay.
Another 5-year-old. This horse was back from 33 to 1 on the day to 10 to 1 the champion bumper because of the mud arrived. He's absolutely out and out stayer. And he get pestered for the lead by a stablemate that went loose, and he actually travelled quite well to the path and then faded away understandably. Set a solid pace in kind of borderline unraceable conditions that day. They persisted with him at a high level because he went to the champion bump on Ireland at Buncestown, where he went off 40 to 1, and again he did the same thing. He did the donkey work for more fancied stablemates, set out in front, and again he didn't get an uncontested lead that day either. Played on for 5th there. He won initially at Navan, and he beat a horse called Landrake, who was 3rd to Facile Vega on debut, and the horse in 2nd was Joyu Mashan. So even all these kind of thin outsider bumper lines, they still can come back to your obvious favourites. So he's a half brother to Gentleman's Game. He's a complete stayer chaser in the making, 3 mile plus. He's probably not one for Cheltenham, perhaps, in the spring, but like something like an Irish national, you can see him mopping up with a big strapping grey horse. He's going to play on remorselessly. So yeah, I think he's just a complete out and out galloper. They're going to mine their time with him, and national route probably the way to go.
Brilliant. I am going to go to start. My first one is a horse that ran on Saturday for the McNeils and Gordon Elliott. 3-Card Bragg was 3rd behind Hercule de Soy. Now, Hercule de Soy, is he going to be maybe top of the Mullins tree in terms of Supreme? I don't think so, but I think 3-Card Bragg looked to me like an out and out stayer. He looked to me like he's going to appreciate a step up in trip. I would be amazed if he's not running over 2.5 next time out. He's the first one for me. Second one is another novice hurdler who is getting all the reports out of the Henderson camp that it could be quite special in the Donnelly colours. Jet Powered. I just think as well, you look at the Henderson record, there's a lot of positive notes coming out about him. He's entered on Monday, I believe. I think, is it Hereford? I might be wrong. It might not be Hereford. Kempton. The way that Henderson targets these horses, he always seems to have one that he targets for certain areas. He did it last year with John Bond. We knew where we would likely see him. I think this could be another one here. Jet Powered for me could be another one. The third one, to me, I'm just going to get the name because I was going to get your thoughts on this. There was a horse that ran in a juvenile hurdle on Saturday at Cheltenham by the name of Persis Way for the Moors. Now, I had him in my column at 5-1 and went to work. And when the next time I looked at the market, he was sitting at 25-1 and finished second behind a very eye-catching horse called Scriptwriter from Milton Harris. He might not be one for Cheltenham, but if you look at like kind of Porticello, Nasalam, the Moors always seem to have a horse for roundabout, particularly the kind of the finale hurdle at Christmas at Chepstow. Keep an eye on him for that. He could maybe be one for that kind of juvenile division. He's one to follow for me. Next one, I think Lucia for Nicky Henderson could be a bit special. Was meant to run on Saturday, but she was pulled out due to the ground. She won at, I can't remember where. I think it might have been Wetherby. Just after Cheltenham, she won by 17 lengths. I think we all want to see Henry de Bromhead have a winner in that race, obviously because it's named after his son. But I think Lucia could be a bit special. I think if she's aimed, she's obviously going to have she might not be able to get another run over kind of bumpers before the end of November. But if she does and she goes over hurdle, she might have a couple of runs before Cheltenham. She could be really, really interested in a mare's novice. And my fifth one was Capodanno. I think Capodanno just as a potential outsider for a Gold Cup. Yeah, I think Capodanno could be one. So that's my 5 to follow. There's not a short price in there.
Oh, there's not. I think Lucia does actually have a hurdle entry. It's somewhere next week that I looked at. Yeah, so that's a good thing. I'm
quite glad she didn't. I'm quite glad she didn't run because I think Queen's Gamble was really good that day.
Let's have a run in a bumper and then go over hurdles. You know, everyone's moaning about the ground. We can't race on it. Well, why waste time and have another run at the bumper at the start of the season? Just get them over hurdles. I mean,
correct.
It's quite annoying in that regard. But yeah, no, she does have that kind of star potential. Like you could see her going off. You could see her climbing the ladder pretty quickly.
She could be maybe an Epitone type where I think it came a year too soon in a mare's novice, but the year after you could see the improvement. So she might not be one for a mare's novice, but keep an eye on her for down the line because she could be potentially special. We'll now take a look at what's coming up this week. We have a couple of Grade 1s to talk about and potentially a couple of stars for the future to talk about as well. We'll start with the big Grade 1 of the weekend, the Betfair Chase at Haydock. A Plus Tard obviously going for his second consecutive win, the Gold Cup winner, back out for his seasonal appearance. He's up against 4 runners, Protectorat, Bristol de Mai, Eldorado Allen and Frodon. Should he just win?
Yes. There was a bit of market volatility overnight, but Henry de Bromhead moved this morning to kind of crush those rumours that he should be running. You could argue 1 to 2 is fair if you're into that sort of thing. Or try and find a second. Maybe Eldorado because he's got a run under his belt.
Yeah.
Might Protectorat to second, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, I'm focusing those 3. I think Bristol de Mai seems a bit over the hill, and I don't think this is kind of the intended target for Frodon. It was probably a bit too far.
I'm surprised Frodon's going.
If he turns up, he might still be pulled out. It's a big price, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think it's an A Plus Tard win. The next one, the Graduation Chase. Hitman's a short price favourite. Second, obviously, a couple of weeks ago. He's 8 to 13. You've got the likes of Manila Drama, Ernie River, Richie Feet, Elvis Mail. It looks difficult to oppose Hitman, doesn't it? Just in terms of kind of. In terms of ratings, yeah.
You could look at the Exeter run and say, the last time running when he's given tons of weight away to a decent horse, and he just failed. I thought he hung behind a little bit, and his last 6 runs read 2-2-3, 2-2-3.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a horse you don't want to be back in odds on, even a race of this nature. You know, should he win? Yeah. Will he probably win? Yeah. But at the price, with that form, it's just the numbers that are kind of you'd expect him to win a couple of those races as well. Last time out, yeah, it was a good weight carrying effort, and maybe it was just the weight was kind of telling you tired, but he did hang a little bit and didn't get to Riders on the Storm, who does go well fresh, but wait for ages really, and it was a bit of a shock. He wasn't really supported in the market, so yeah, there is a reason to kind of take him on. The opposition isn't great. Manila Drama goes well around Haydock. He looked like he needed the run. Carlisle and the Colin Parker, I thought it was a decent enough effort. Still finished ahead of like the likes of Corrick Ramble and things like it's usually a little warm race. You might have a small bet on him against Hitman, but it wouldn't be anything extravagant.
I'm looking at a horse at 10-1 now. You cannot trust him within an inch of his life. But the big breakaway, I'm still not giving up that he could potentially win a big one.
He's got a couple of entries, isn't he? He's declaring the big the handicap later on as well. But, it depends wherever he runs. But yeah, I mean, if he gets his act together, then he's a plausible player.
The next one, the Betfair Stairs handicap hurdle. I am very big in a horse here for Nicky Alexander that I saw in the flesh a couple of weeks ago. I was at Ayr and saw with Cool win really well, won over 3 miles in soft ground. Probably will be the similar ground here. It's going to be soft, I think. I think there's a lot of rain forecast today. At 12-1 for Nicky Alexander, he's in good form. He's had a lot of winners in the past few weeks. I would potentially take him at a place.
Yeah, not really a race I've probably looked at, but I wouldn't argue against it. In form, would have a each week chance, you'd think. Yeah, it's always bottomless from the ground at Haydock. I mean, it's really hard betting with much confidence here, I feel.
We'll move into Ascot. A couple of hot races to talk about. The 1965 Chase, Lahon Press is sitting at 4-7 for the Venetia Williams. Obviously we'll get a test on his credentials if he's going to step up, and obviously he was really good last year, I thought, in the RSA, where he took advantage of the I think the conditions suited him better and he just took advantage of it. Pick Dory at 3-1 though, he's not a bad horse, and he looked quite good in his reappearance. You would probably say, in terms of last season, kind of British wise, Lahon Press was probably the best novice chaser, but right behind him, kind of mid-range trip, was probably Pick Dory.
Yeah, 155. He's not far away. He's very all in or nothing in the way he's very aggressive, isn't he? So he's the threat if it's good ground. Because he definitely fly. He would take Lahon Press, who does want it a little bit soft with it currently. It's now good to soft. They're going to try and war it to preserve that, to keep Lahon Press in Constitution Hill, and they'll hopefully running. Dashel Drasher acts really well at Ascot. He won a hurdle that he really kind of no right to in the figures. He wasn't really ready for it. Still won it.
Yeah,
he's a big player. He's won an Ascot Chase, so he's definitely dangerous. Venetia Williams has not really had many of the horses out, given that they prefer by and large softer ground. So there's probably reason to take him on in that regard at 4-6 at the moment anyway, but you've just always got to watch what the ground's like at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of fancy Pick Dory actually the more I look at it. The Ascot hurdle over 2 mile 3 furlongs. Well, I think we're all hoping we're going to see Constitution Hill. I think I'm looking at the going just now. The going description is good to firm in places, and Nicky Henderson, a quote: "If the word firm is in the going, he will not be taking part." You've mentioned there that they're probably going to water at Ascot. What's the percentage that Constitution Hill lines up on Saturday?
I think yesterday it was very unlikely, but today there was a lot of rain. The going just updated there this morning. Chris Tickles just came out to Sky and said that it's good to soft.
Okay.
Which is a help. But again, never really. I would wait till we see what the ground's like on Friday.
Yeah.
Get a fair indication. At the moment, I think we'll get away with it. We've been here before with Nicky Henderson's course with Shishkin and Altion, what grounds that, and it gets a little bit tedious, just wait and see what happens, really. It's going to be his decision at the end of the day, just sit there and suffer, so he's going to make the market. It was a big move out that went to odds against. He's probably going to be chipped back in, and he really should win, shouldn't he? If he doesn't turn up, good risk at all is interesting, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's
if he goes there.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that St Sam's got an entry as well. I don't know what the plan is. Obviously, ran last year over fences, right?
But again, it's one of these things of this kind of a bit of a trend this year of we'll give them one run over hurdles and then go over fences and bumper run and then go. To me, it's a waste of time. But that's what trainers seem to be. Some trainers want to do at the moment. But Goshen won't win, will he?
No chance. No chance. I text you saying that I think he's going to win the Henry VIII. So I'm openly going to admit that was embarrassing.
I don't think he's going to be winning anything.
He's not going to be winning anything.
I've always been against him, but he's everyone's Marmite horse, isn't he? And you need that in racing. Everyone will have a strong opinion on Goshen. They'll love him, or they will not have him. And I'm in the latter with him.
There's a very interesting beginner's chase at Punchestown on Saturday, and I'm just going to run through some of the entries. Now, all these might not go, but I'm just going to run through them all. Flame Bearer, Gaia Duminil, Irascible, Journey with Me, Kilcruit, Manila Crooner, Saint Felician. If all them run, what a race that is.
Yeah, at the start of the season, you're always saying that if they all run, and the vast majority of them end up not running. But yeah, they're all going to be very bright prospects. It's over 2 mile 3, so it suits intermediate ones. It suits the stayers that are just starting out, and your pacier ones could probably get away with it. A track like Punchestown, quite sharp. So it should be a race that attracts all kinds of novices. And then you've got the Craddockstown as well. There, you've also got the first Irish pair top qualifier that week as well. There's a good list of Mares Hurdle where Queensbrook I think is going to come back. So it means there's plenty to get teeth into there. Clonmel as well tomorrow's quite good. You've got a Scarlet and Dove versus Ellie May, that, and another decent Blue Lord versus Tornado Flyer as well. So it's starting to heat up a little bit.
Yeah, Sunday obviously we have the Morgiana at Punchestown, the Willie Mullins show by the looks of it. He's got 6 of the 8 entries. I don't see them all going. I don't see all 6 of them going. You've got the other 2, obviously, Tia Hupu and Jessie Evans. I think it's going to be interesting whatever Paul Townend's riding is obviously the one that is the number 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be significant, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Mullins did say 6 of them are intended runners, but this is the stats of all stats in this race. As you alluded to, Willie Mullins has 6 of the 8 entries. All 6 of them are different ages.
All right, okay.
Is 4, State Man is 5, Echoes and Rain is 6, Sir Gerhard is 7, Soldi is 8, and Sharjah is 9.
There you go. That's why we pay you the big bucks.
That was just kind of a unique kind of wee quirk spot thing. There's no kind of rhyme or reasons to it, and I think that's what Willie Mullins is going to think of. It's just an exercise in where am I at in the 2 mile division? Do I have anything that can hold a candle to what Constitution Hill might be and what Buckle is? So he's just trialing it and mixing it, and I wouldn't be surprised if quite a lot of these run.
I find it very interesting that when it was priced up, when they were entered, Vauban was 4 to 9. Now, I think you were taking that as Vauban. That was Vauban's clear target. But now you've got State Man and Sir Gerhard. I don't think Vauban, if all of them run, I don't think if I was a bookmaker, I couldn't price it as Vauban being odds on.
Well, State Man would definitely be a lot closer. If you look at the Champion Hurdle market, for instance, they can't split them there. So why can you split them? State Man definitely seems to. At the very start of the season, it looked like Sir Gerhard was definitely going over fences. He was 50-50, but State Man and Vauban would be the number 1 champion hurdle. This will be on to get Saldi on track, Sharjah on track for Christmas, and Echoes and Rain isn't a 2.5 mile, so she has to really come here, and she might as well, with allowance, gives us a squeak if something's off form. So you're really left with Vauban, State Man, or Sir Gerhard to win this. It's probably going to be between Vauban and State Man, because that's probably in between Paul Town's going to pick. Sir Gerhard is probably the likely one that won't turn up.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I don't understand why Willie Mullins, he's a genius, and I very, very rarely criticise him, but why is this horse at 7 years old, it's been bought as a point-to-pointer by an ownership that just buy for Gold Cup horses, why is he even contemplating being a champion hurdler? And the only more ridiculous thing of not sending over fences and keeping him hurdling is start him out here at Punchestown.
Yes.
He's been beaten twice, and he even said after that race, maybe it's a track, maybe he doesn't like it here. That's what he said after that race. So sometimes I think you have too many options for your own good here. If I was the owner and I was following this horse, I'd be then, what's going on here?
I can't understand it either.
given it a second thought of him going over fences.
I can understand to a degree the Hatton's grace to maybe because he handled the Ballymore trip reasonably well.
But I mean, he misses hurdles. I don't think he's a pace champion hurdler. He just looks the most obvious type to send over fences immediately.
Yeah.
He's already 7. He's spent time being a bumper horse, now a novice hurdler. Maybe they think that he can completely do it all, but Cheltenham looks hot enough. Make hay over fences, I would say, and get to Gold Cup before the age of 9.
Yeah, I do think that's what will happen. I do think he will eventually go over fences. I think this is maybe just as you say, I do notice a lot of horses are going over hurdles, and then Phil Dawes are one as well.
What are they doing?
Yeah, Phil Dawes a weird one as well.
They've got Pied Piper for the Cheltenham in the same ownership,
Correct.
the same division, the same races. Why are they both still over hurdles?
Exactly.
It just baffles me. It baffles me. Same way bumpers going up to novice hurdlers. Oh, we'll just have another run in the bumpers. No, the jumps horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if I was to, all the horses are the same price, the Morgiana, who'd you back?
Vauban.
I think Vauban as well. I think I'll be each way into your Hooper as well. But we'll move into our lucky 15 for the Cheltenham Festival. Last year, we obviously got a lot of talk about Calum picked a lucky 15 that was very, very unlucky. So I thought for the opening weekend, we are going to both do a lucky 15 for the festival. It's going to be interesting how this is going to work. We're going to go one each, and you're going to go first. So what is your first selection for the lucky 15?
Banbridge and Arkle.
Okay.
The reason why I deliberately omitted them from saying anything earlier on, he reminds me of Fakir Doudary a lot.
Okay.
And the flexibility in his trip, he can already do 2.5 miles. He won the Martin Pipe, it was slowly run.
Mm-hmm.
Speed one of that, really. The third in that, Hollow Games, looks an equally good novice chaser in terms of improvement. Adamantly chosen as well, further down, who runs in the Caddocks, and he could win that as well. So that already automatically has a pretty strong look to the Martin Pipe traditionally does churn out really good chasers down the line. I think it's very professional. He put a horse that's rated 161, Tommy's Oscar, who's been good enough to win a champion hurdle. It's grade 2 hurdle class. One of Britain's probably best hurdlers at the moment. It might be a damn indictment of the 2 mile division, but nonetheless, put him away quite comfortably. Like his jumping's fantastic. He's not overly enthusiastic. He's settled, he'll stay further. Le Richborg was in a previous kind of proper type as well. He started out 2.5. Fakir start 2.5. His best novice chasers kind of start out going up, and they have the flexibility come back down. You need to stay in an Arkle as well up the hill. And the 3 horses in Joseph O'Brien's lifetime training in 2.5 mile or 2 mile novices at the Cheltenham Festival in terms of chasing have all finished second.
Mm-hmm.
Us and them, who was his second string to Le Richborg clearly that year, was second. Fakir Doudary was second, and Busselton was second last year, which is a bit of a cheat because he didn't run well, but still second. So and all of them were decent prices. There's 14 sniffing out Paddy Power as a single. That's not bad either. I think. I know you've got potential John Bonn and One Out Multons as horses that might be top class. He's obviously be vulnerable to that top class, but I find it really hard to see an English horse beating him at the moment, and another 3 that certainly knock him out the frame because he was just so solid, no nonsense. Kind of the time was good, everything was efficient. He didn't miss a beat. He just looked really accomplished and forward. Ederson won the Arco by being more forward than anyone else because he had back experience, and he came out of handicapped company and did well. So yeah, it's a race that can also cut up a field deal as well. So I think 14s for him is not bad. Yeah,
no, I totally understand that. My first pick is going to be in the Mares Hurdle, and it's going to be a horse for Willie Mullins. That could be a common theme here. Brandy Love. Now, Brandy Love was very, very phasey before Cheltenham in that race against Allegoria de Vassy, jumped ridiculously left to the point, only finished 3.5 lengths behind Allegoria de Vassy, who I do think will develop into quite a good chaser down the line. The mare's novice, she was pulled out on the day due to the ground. That mare's novice, I don't think that mare's novice was good at all. I think she would have been close to winning that. She then went out at Punchestown, again right-handed, after the festival, and I thought, what are they doing here? Why are they running her? And she was straight as an arrow. That tells me a lot that they've straightened out her jumping. The mare's division last season, I don't think was brilliant. I have a ton of respect for Queensbrook. I think she will probably be the more forward. I don't think Epatone is going to be a proper 2.5 miler. I know she beat Zana here, but she was very, very lucky that day, I think. And I thought she was bang average actually in the race that Marie's Rock won, who I think is quite good as well. But I do think there's potentially something better. And I think Brandy Love could just be that. I hope they haven't mentioned fences, so I'm 99% confident that she's going to stay over hurdles. So I think it's 7-2. She's a bit short, but I've seen 4-1, 9-2 kicking about. So about 9-2, I think Brandy Love could be an interesting candidate for the mare's hurdle now that they've straightened out her jumping. And my advice would be, if she stays left-handed, she could be very, very good in this division this year.
Yeah, I still think she's a bit of a head case.
She could be.
I don't think it's completely ironed out, but yeah.
She reminds me of York Hill.
She's one of the most potential in terms of things, and yeah, she's the obvious one that you pick moving up chains. Going out Epatone, you can just kind of see a concertista style mugging because she doesn't quite stay up that hill over that.
Yeah.
So I would be a bit, although undisputedly class act, and the another Cheltenham form is very good. The trip would be a bit of a doubt, and you do see mares being outstaying this quite often. When Black Tears won it, Marie's Rock, even it turned into a stamina contest, you do need to kind of stay and out battle. So I think Epatone would be out battled by somebody. It might be Brandy Love. She might also wipe out half the field.
She could win it. Yeah, she could be a very frustrating horse this season. I think I'm going to be on here a few times being quite frustrated with her. But in terms of that division, I don't think there's anything. Queensbrook, I think, is going to be interesting.
A very disappointing reintroduction, isn't she? When Gordon Elliott was kind of very bullish about the stadium.
Yeah.
I think she's kind of been clipped back in, which maybe sums up a lack of alternatives in that race. It's not a race I've had a deep look at. All would tell me something Gill going novice chasing would help. Opens that up. Marie's Rock, they've muted going up to 3 miles of her because Epatone go 2.5. So it could really, if Brandy Love has straightened out for definite and it does cut up a little bit, and then 4.72 might definitely not be that bad come March.
Yeah. What is your next selection?
Flooring Port on the Steers Hurdle.
Okay.
5-1, big time champ. I don't see much opposition. Blazing Cal, sexy, unexposed horse, but he's been met with another setback. It's not as if Charles Burns can have a handicap mark to just plot here. You're going paraching straight into a grade 1 where the mid 160s horse. He'll only be 8 as well come spring. He's still pretty young. There's a lot of upside to him. I don't see anything from all the relevant horses from the Bartlett are going chasing or are out. There's nothing really in 2.5 mile division that I'd be too concerned about. Paisley Park, Sadabella, they're all getting older. He's still in the same. Navan, maybe a slight backward step. Maybe you would have looked for a little bit more, but there was nothing wrong with it. Jumped well enough, sound enough, just get outpaced and then kind of plugged on, and he still ran to the line okay enough. Unlike Bob Wallinger, who paddled even though he finished well in front. But I think he's still in the solid one. You just know that everything orientates around going back there with the syndicate for the third time. He acts on the track, gets on well, and Gavin Cromwell, I think, is an exceptional target trainer. He's already showed that early on to get Sweet Will to win at the November, 3 days after going at Fairyhouse and the penalty. Just very good planning, and I think I just trust him to be spot on again, and I think he'll just do it again.
My next pick comes in the National Hunt Chase for Willie Mullins. Now, I should say that I don't like his price just now. I think he's ridiculously short, but I do think Guy Abduminil's got the perfect profile for this race. Second season chaser, third in the Brown Advisory last year, staying on. I know we had the debate a couple of years ago when he was a novice hurdler that he was running in the Ballymore, and we felt it was up against Bob Ollinger and Braveman's Game. We felt those two were going to do him for toe, and that turned out to be the case. But it wasn't. I think he had 5 runs over fences last year and he didn't win. So that experience could be crucial. At times it can be frustrating, but the third in the Brown Advisory I thought was really good. I thought he stayed on. He then went to run in the Irish National, and I remember texting you. I'll look through this text this morning, so I've got the exact price. I backed him at 20-1 that day for the National Hunt Chase. He ran in the Irish National, finished third. Frontal Assault was in front of him, finished second, but he was given Frontal Assault £17. So I think he is potentially better than Frontal Assault. I think he's a lot better horse than Frontal Assault. He's going to maybe run on Saturday. I think we'll get a better clue then. But 3-1 is very short. But in terms of profile, the fact that Patrick always seems to have one in his eye straight away for this race, I think the experience factor, Chemical Energy looked pretty good, but Guy Abduminil to me looks to be the perfect ideal runner for this race. And he's the likes of Statler, carefully selected, a couple of Mullins horses that have just run it in their first season. I think a second season horse could potentially be the way forward here. I would at 3-1 short, but for this I do like him.
Yeah, I think he's a touch of class as well. That all of a sudden you really need in the National Hunt Chase. Galvin, Statler come to mind.
Galvin was a second season chaser as well.
Run Wild Fred was made to look like bolts by Statler, wasn't he? So if he turns up, he's already rated in the high 150s. That's more than enough usually to win that. The experience of him as well. I thought he could have been closer in the Brown Advisory. I think it backed him each way late on because there was all these sort of defections happening. I think if he could have been further into it a little bit sooner, he would have got closer. He definitely be a big player. Chemical Energy, the race that he won,
it fell apart.
It fell apart with life in the park and bombing out as he did. The Skeleton Horse Bally Griffin Cottage might be one that they might try and map out for that. But this is not a traditional race that they kind of go for. But they would go to Warwick for the Hampton, things like that. That's normally a typical prep. But yeah, the opposition at this early stage looks fairly thin on the ground for him if he does go there.
What's the third one for you?
Just saying, I mean the Champion Chase. It was short, but I just think he'll win. You like to have like a banker leg in this, and I think he'd probably be the one. Either him or Delta or the cross country chase. They would be your kind of Wednesday kind of middle day bankers, or this won't get beat. I think just holding every single ace in the pack in this division at the moment, and I don't really see that changing.
So we'll get Energamine in the Champion Chase. My next one comes in the Ballymore. It's a horse I've marked out for this for a good 12 months at least. American Mike at 9-2. They ran him over 2 miles 6 furlongs, I think, to see if he'd get the Battler trip, but I just don't think I think they'll go Ballymore. I think it all depends obviously on Facile Vega. But if American Mike lines up in the Ballymore, I'm all over him actually. And I think, as you say, he'll go to the Lawlers of Naas. I think they'll do it exactly the same as they did with Gentle. You might see him at Christmas maybe in kind of something where he should just go and win. It might be something like Limerick or Down Royal or something, just to get a run into him before not Christmas actually, maybe the start of December. You've got the start of December, Lawlers of Naas maybe the beginning of January, and then I think you'll see him just towards the festival. So I'll
find something for him.
December. But I think 9-2 is a decent price considering. I think if Facile Vega wasn't there or was totally going towards the Supreme, I think he'd be a lot shorter than he is. So I think 9-2 could be pretty decent.
Yeah, I personally I don't think we've seen enough to bet novice hurdles at the moment, personally, and I think the market is relatively well covered in the established form anyway of bumpers.
Yeah.
So these new ones, like you mentioned, Jet Powered, for instance. He'd be one. There'll be springers in that Bartlett. I mean, I think there's like 6 or 7 that you can shortlist in that Albert Bartlett at the moment that are completely under the radar.
Yeah, oh, definitely. That race is always the same, though. There's always.
And it usually does pan out like that.
I mean, the nice guy was so easy to back when you look at it now.
Yeah, and he get bigger with the taking that back to Ante Post. Amazingly, he did come off bigger. Yeah, it's one of the more appealing races in terms of betting because they always just put the fancied ones at the top of the Albert because they're the more fancied ones anyway, and they might go up in trip. You know they won't. So you can find the odd gem in there. But it's just too early. I'm not seeing enough in the novice hurdles at the moment, in my opinion.
What is your final selection for your lucky 15?
Chapeau du Soy in the bumper.
Okay.
It's just a bit of a chance, but 10-1. He's been, the market move suggests that he's kind of very high, and Mullins is.
Are you the only person in the world who hasn't backed King of Kingsfield for this race?
Well, I've looked at Gordon Elliott's bumper horses, and I think they've been pretty poor, to be honest. In terms of Cheltenham quality, I've better days ahead.
No.
King of Kingsfield, I think, it's a bit of temperament issue for bumpers anyway. I don't think he's that impressive. There was another one that ran this week that looked a bit slow to me. I think Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott's usually pretty far ahead. He's usually further ahead with juveniles and mudboard horses than Willie Mullins is, quite a consistent season basis. So I'd be concerned if I'd backed anything Ante Post of Gordon Elliott's that I've seen so far for the champion bumper. I don't think they're up to standard. I don't think there's a Sir Gerhard in there. I don't think there's a American Mike in there at the moment.
I don't think Gigginstown really target the bumper. The only time they've done it was Abacadabra.
And I liked Abacadabra as well. He ran through a rail as well. But you were able to get ludicrous prices about him back then, so it wasn't too bad. And like every good each way bet, he finished 4th that year. So I just think Willie Mullins will probably win champion bumper the way it's going, and he's the one at the top of the market and tens. So what happened with Facile Vega? Okay, there's nothing that suggests he's going to be Facile Vega. There's no hype in that regard, but you know he's probably going to be up there. He runs several in the race more often than any other trainer would. So I think tens is fair enough to get some kind of price in there. He's going to go there. There's no plan to go hurdling, I don't think.
Yeah, my final selection comes in the Brown Advisory. Now, I will apologise that we're not doing this maybe a week early. Maybe get a bit of better value here. But Jerry Calum, yesterday, I thought was really impressive. I thought he jumped really well. You can tell this horse is a chaser. He's going to be a staying chaser. He's going to be, I think, the bottom of the Gold Cup in mind. I think you get 22s yesterday. I think I done this lucky 15. It was 22-1. He's now 10-1. But I can totally understand the drop because he done it well. It wasn't, I mean, Braun, I would imagine there's Willie Mullins get 2 or 3 horses kind of over 3 miles that are going to be better than Braun. Manella Cooner could be a big one as well. But I just think the way he did it, the way he jumped, he's always had this in mind that this is where he's going to go. I don't see them going a national hunt chase route with him. I think he could be a 3-mile horse, and I think they could run him here. And 10-1, I think, is fair.
Yeah, I think he's grade 1 class. I've always liked him. I've liked him for a long time. His bumper days have followed him. There has been many a day in the summer and the twilight where I have stared at his price for the Brown Advisory and thought, yeah, I can see him going off short, but I just never brought myself to really pull the trigger. And the reason why is because Thurles was too soft and it jarred him up a little bit and it forced him to miss the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And spring festivals, if it comes up decent ground, I'd be a bit fearful for him. I would kind of, in the long run, I would hope that he wouldn't run, to be honest, on that ground. He'd get away with good to soft, as he's shown. Thurles, he can get away with it. He can act on it, but it is the knock-on effect of that you would be mindful of. He's definitely a player. You know, if it was the conditions that it was this season, yeah, you would be on everyone's radar.
Yeah.
It's just the niggling doubt of ground dependence come spring. Limerick, that race at Limerick that Farrell Glen went to last year is ideal for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well.
And he has kept right-handed, which I think is a quirk because I've not seen anything he's jumping, but he's exclusively in race right-handed. That was the same. So in travel, Cheltenham asks a little bit of a question, but there is no doubt in my mind that he is a very high-class prospect.
Yeah, I do think as well. I think the Nice Guy would have been very hard to beat in this race if everything had went to plan.
Another horse I love.
Yeah,
I hope he comes back.
Yeah, I hope he does as well. And
Monkfish as well, you know.
Well, the Monkfish one's interesting because straight away they were doing the stable tour and they asked Willie about him, and Willie said you won't see him before the spring. Now that says to me that was the kind of top of the game vibes as well, where you wouldn't see him before the spring, but you might see him in a festival.
Yeah, it's basically it's not looking good. We'll try our best to get him back.
Aye, yeah, and it's gutting because I think you in particular, you were saying here, you thought he'd win the Gold Cup and he's novice here. You were that impressed with him.
Yeah, you could have gone for it. At the Dublin Racing Festival, what he did was spectacular.
Yeah, and I think he's probably from that. And it's that thing as well, where you look at like Envoy Allen, Bob Bollinger, these horses that we build up so high. Sam Crow's a good example as well. Sam Crow's seems to have come back to life. I think Sam Crow's entered this week as well in is it a Hunter's Chase he's maybe in?
Dominant in the point-to-point field at the moment. I think he's ineligible for like.
Do we build horses too high up, and then when they fall, it takes us so long to just forgive them and give them another chance?
I think that's the punting aspect of it. The punting aspect of it is you have to be crestfallen because you do have a vested interest in the performance of that certain day. So hard to forgive in that. And then you've got the other side of just brilliant animals that you enjoy seeing.
Yeah.
Balancing it out, but yeah, the hype thing is justified. Like any sport, you're always hyped up to watch the best of it and what matters to you. So yeah, it's worth following. I think that's a big appeal in that.
Yeah,
you do get these horses developing from bumpers to hurdles to chases.
Yeah, we spend more time with them than we do with flat horses. Yeah, it's
a bit more of a connection
there. Yeah. Well, that's the first show of the season wrapped. We are going to be back next week as well. We are going to be back. Obviously, the World Cup's going to be on next week, so we'll be fitting the show in during that as well. Calum, it's going to be good, isn't it? It's the sports season is fully upon us. A winter World Cup and some national hunt racing. What could be better?
It's constant. It's five. It's all go. Yeah, it is where it starts to really pick up, doesn't it? Yeah, hopefully the rain will come and everyone can get on and really get on with it, and you can really look forward to kind of the big and it'll almost be Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But thank you very much for joining us, Calum. It's been a pleasure.
No, thanks again.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media. We'll also have a column out Saturday, Sunday for the weekend racing, and also subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels, and we'll be back next week. Thanks very much, everyone. See you soon. Cheers.